Brooklyn, New York, a borough known for its vibrant culture, iconic landmarks, and bustling streets. For millions, it's a place to call home, a place of community and dreams. But for one family, their dream apartment in this thriving city turned into an unrelenting nightmare. This is the story of the Roland-White family and the dark presence that attached itself to them, refusing to let go. In the spring of 2020, Ashley Roland-White, her husband, and their 2 young children moved into what they believed was the perfect Brooklyn apartment. It was modern, spacious, and located in a safe, family-friendly neighborhood. For the first few months, life was idyllic. The children loved their new rooms, and the family settled into a comfortable routine. They had no idea that their domestic bliss was about to be shattered by something ancient and unseen. It all began subtly, with things you could easily explain away. A light bulb flickering in the hallway, a strange cold spot in the corner of the living room, the unsettling feeling of being watched when no one else was home. Ashley and her husband would joke about it, calling it the quirks of an old building. But soon, the jokes stopped. The minor annoyances escalated into genuine fear. The children were the first to experience the full force of the haunting. Ashley's daughter, just 6 years old at the time, began waking up in the middle of the night, screaming in terror. She would talk about a tall, dark man standing in the corner of her room, just watching her. At first, Ashley dismissed it as a child's nightmare, a product of an overactive imagination, but the night terrors became a regular occurrence. Always the same description, a shadowy figure with no face, simply observing from the darkness. Soon after, Ashley's son started experiencing similar phenomena. He would wake up crying, pointing to the ceiling, claiming something was crawling above his bed. The parents were growing increasingly concerned. These weren't just bad dreams. This was something more tangible, something that was actively targeting their children. The sense of safety they once felt in their own home was rapidly dissolving, replaced by a constant, gnawing anxiety. Then, objects began to move on their own. It started with small things, keys disappearing from the hook by the door, only to reappear in the middle of the kitchen floor. Picture frames turned face down on the mantelpiece. One afternoon, while Ashley was cooking, a heavy glass bowl slid across the kitchen counter and crashed to the ground, shattering into 1,000 pieces. There was no vibration, no logical explanation. It was as if an invisible hand had pushed it with deliberate force. The activity grew more brazen. Doors would creak open and slam shut with violent force, even when all the windows were closed. The family would hear distinct, heavy footsteps pacing the hallway late at night. But whenever they checked, the hallway was empty. Whispers seemed to emanate from the walls, faint and unintelligible, like a radio tuned to a dead station. The family began to feel like prisoners, trapped with an entity they couldn't see or understand. Desperate for answers and proof, Ashley installed security cameras throughout the apartment. She hoped to either debunk the events as tricks of the mind or capture concrete evidence of the haunting. What she captured was far more terrifying than she could have ever imagined. The footage was chilling. Orbs of light would dance through the rooms at night. Dark, fleeting shadows would dart across the frame, too fast to be a trick of the light. The most disturbing piece of footage was captured in the children's bedroom. The camera, set to night vision, showed a tall, spindly shadow detaching itself from the corner of the room. It slowly elongated, stretching towards the bed where Ashley's daughter was sleeping. The form was humanoid but unnaturally thin, its proportions all wrong. It loomed over the child for several moments before receding back into the darkness. When Ashley saw the footage, her blood ran cold. This wasn't a nightmare, it was real. The personal experiences became more aggressive. Ashley began to suffer from sleep paralysis. She would wake up, unable to move or scream, feeling an immense pressure on her chest, as if someone was sitting on her. During these episodes, she would see the same tall, dark figure her daughter had described, standing at the foot of her bed, its presence radiating pure malice. She felt it was feeding on her fear, growing stronger with each terrifying encounter. Her husband, initially a skeptic, could no longer deny the reality of their situation. He too began to witness apparitions. One evening, he saw a full-bodied silhouette of a man walk from the kitchen into the living room and vanish into thin air. The entity was no longer hiding in the shadows. It was making its presence known, staking its claim on their home and their lives. Feeling they had nowhere else to turn, the Roland-White family reached out for help. They contacted paranormal investigators, mediums, and religious figures, hoping someone could explain what was happening and how to make it stop. A team of seasoned paranormal investigators agreed to visit the apartment, armed with EMF meters, thermal cameras, and audio recorders. The moment the investigators stepped inside, their equipment lit up. EMF meters registered impossibly high readings in the areas where the family had reported the most activity: the children's bedroom and the main hallway. The investigators conducted an EVP session, or electronic voice phenomenon, asking questions into the empty rooms and recording the audio for any potential replies. During playback, they captured several distinct and unsettling voices. In response to the question, "Who is here with us?" a low guttural whisper was recorded, seeming to say the word "mine." Another recording captured a faint, childlike giggle in the daughter's room. Even though the children were staying with their grandparents that night, the evidence was undeniable. The family was not alone. A medium who visited the apartment claimed the presence was not a typical human spirit. She described it as something older, something inhuman that had attached itself to the land long before the building was constructed. She believed it was a parasitic entity, drawing energy from the family's fear and distress. She warned that it was possessive and territorial, and that it saw the family, particularly the children, as its property. She advised them that the only way to be safe was to leave, but leaving wasn't so simple. The entity seemed to have attached itself not just to the apartment, but to the family itself. Ashley reported that even when they stayed at her parents' house for a weekend, the activity followed them. A cabinet door would fly open. They would hear the same familiar footsteps in the night. The dark shadow was seen in the corner of the guest room. The chilling realization dawned on them. This wasn't just a haunted house. They were a haunted family. The haunting took a severe toll on their mental and emotional well-being. Sleep became a luxury they could no longer afford. The constant state of fear and anxiety strained their relationships and left them feeling exhausted and isolated. How do you explain to friends or colleagues that a shadow demon is terrorizing your family? They feared judgment and disbelief, so they suffered mostly in silence. Their ordeal, a dark secret. The investigators tried multiple spiritual cleansings of the apartment. They used sage, holy water, and recited prayers. Each time, the activity would subside for a few days, giving the family a brief, hopeful respite. But it always returned, often with more intensity and aggression than before, as if angered by their attempts to banish it. The shadow figure became more visible, the whispers more frequent, the physical manifestations more violent. To this day, the Roland-White family continues to be plagued by this dark presence. They have learned to live in a state of constant vigilance, documenting their experiences and searching for a way to break free from the entity that has invaded their lives. Their story is a terrifying reminder that some things are beyond our understanding, and that the veil between our world and another can sometimes be terrifyingly thin. This case remains unsolved. The evidence is compelling, the experiences are terrifying, and the family's ordeal is ongoing. It forces us to ask a difficult question. What would you do if something unseen followed your family, turning your home, your sanctuary, into a place of fear? What would you do when the monster from your nightmares is real? Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more true paranormal accounts. Stay safe, and remember to check the shadows.